So we're going to start dinner here pretty quick. And before that we do that, I'd like to ask Rich to come up and say grace for us. Thanks again, Rich. Wonderful.
It's my privilege, my God.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Good. Okay, I'm almost off the clock here, but I've got just one thing I need to do, and that is the bridal party. First of all, I mean, I've had 12, but never 29 or 70. But this was a record, and I'll tell others about it. And anyways, but what I wanted to say was I was a little concerned about Scott and Courtney. Only one thing, and that was I was concerned about their ability to kiss well. And so I still have a little concern about that. But the reality is that they learned it from who? Their parents, right? And the one thing about these receptions that's always been hard for me is they're kissing all night. But you got to go back to the source, right? You got to go back to source. So, Patrick, Julie, stand up. No, hey, no, wait a minute. No, you got it. You can't. I'll let you know when. Stand up. Okay, now okay. Hey, Courtney, Scott, watch this. You're gonna learn something. Okay. Woo! Okay. Whoa. Ooh. Holy buckets. Great, that was good. Maybe I should pray right now. Jeez. Woo! I don't know how to even respond to that. Way to go. That was Patrick. That was meaningful. Now, Ann and Bob. Yeah. You're the groom's parents. Stand up.
The kids have never seen us kiss.
Oh, they've never seen you kiss. Now is the time to see you kiss. Go ahead and stand up. Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Okay. Now, wait a minute. You can now kiss one another. Go ahead. Oh, nice. Wow. How about that, huh? Man. Woo. That's what you call passion right there, I'll tell you what. That's a beautiful thing. Okay, quickly I'm going to pray for us, but before I do, there's a passage in the Old Testament that's one of my favorite. My wife and I were married 39 years ago, about a month ago, and the passage is this. It's really a cool word picture. It says this in this wisdom literature in Ecclesiastes. It says, 2 are better than 1, for they'll have a greater return for their work. But pity the one who falls down and has no one there to pick him up. And then this beautiful word picture. Solomon says a 3-ply cord cannot be easily broken. Now, if you know this, a rope is 2 strands. The 2 of you are each an individual strand. And woven together, you only make a rope. But a cord that holds an ocean liner to a dock, that's a cord. And it's 3 strands woven together. It's a beautiful image. And Solomon says a cord of 3 strands cannot be broken. So it's not just you alone, but it's a God who loves you and wants you to wrap yourselves around him. And if that's so, you'll have a marriage that will give hope and light, a marriage that will last, that cannot be broken. Let's pray. Gracious God, thank you for tonight, for this afternoon. Thank you for the joy and the power of love. Thank you for your presence in this room. And as we enjoy food and as we enjoy dancing, I just pray that each of us in this room would be reminded that we are much better with you than we are alone. And so bless this food and each person in this room. Thank you so much for Courtney and Scott. You're an awesome God. And it's in your name that I pray. And all God's people said, amen. Bless you.
A couple things. First, I'd like to recognize Bob and Ann Schofield. First off, we've got to know them for a few years now, and I guess it's more like 6, isn't it? But we've got to know them, and we've done some things together, and it's been a lot of fun. So we really cherish the relationship and hope that we get to spend more time with you. I want to thank you not only for everything you did this weekend, and how about that party last night? I want to thank you for that too. But I guess most importantly, I want to thank you for the really great man that you raised in Scott. It's obviously a testament to doing things right. You guys did it right. He's not only extremely friendly, right? We all know Scott's friendly. I should be looking at you here, Scott. You're very polite, very polite. Yes, Mr. Quilty. No, Mr. Quilty. Please get out of my hair, Mr. Quilty. Yeah. You're hardworking, but you're absolutely perfect for Courtney. So Julie and I have really gotten to know you, and again, a lot longer than I realized, for these past years, and really feel like you're already part of the family. But now this just formalizes it. You two are great together. You have complementary demeanors. Now, I don't know if you know this or not, but Courtney has a flair for the dramatic. So we really need you to kind of, help balance that out. Complementary demeanor. You both work very hard at your jobs, your respective jobs. You have a beautiful new home. And of course, the crowning achievement, you got Briggsy. Looks to me like the start to a great and beautiful life together. Thanks, Scott, for being the perfect partner for my perfect daughter. Now maybe you can start calling me by my first name. Oh, by the way, Scott, one last thing. I talked to POTUS this afternoon. He is so sorry that he's not able to, him and the First Lady, to be here tonight. So he sends his regrets. He said he's got a couple balls in the air. He said you'd understand. It's something about a witch hunt. I didn't get it, but he said you'd understand. All right, now on to my perfect angel, Courtney. Honey, you look absolutely beautiful today. Thank God you take after your mother. That first look thing that we do, it's really a communist plot to have fathers melt. And I absolutely melted. It was pretty emotional for me. But you look beautiful. So last night, for those of you that heard some of the speeches, which were great, by the way, they were kind of short, kind of funny, really well written, and they flew by. They were really, really great. But you heard a lot about Courtney and maybe her college days and beyond. I'm going to focus a little bit more on the younger side of it. I can't overstate how much of a true daddy's girl Courtney was growing up. Now, I have 3 daughters, right? All of whom I love completely and equally. But as Colleen and Caitlin will attest, Courtney's the one that had me wrapped around her little finger from the very beginning, early on, and it's continued to work pretty well for you. All right, so I'm going to give a couple examples. First off, I remember the day you were born. I really do, and immediately I saw that first minute of life, those beautiful dimples that define you. I remember it to this day. You had me hooked. So the first example is Courtney was about 5 or 6. And somehow, I don't know, she learned in school, somehow was with some friends or something like that, and the concept of divorce. Maybe one of the kids, I don't know, parents were getting divorced or something like that. So she comes home, and I'm at work, and Julie's at home, and she says, Mom, if you and Dad ever get divorced, I'm going with Dad. True story. Julie was speechless, and we all have had a pretty good laugh on it now. I think if something happens now, you may go with Scott. I'm not sure, but anyway. Early on, Courtney's had a love for music, and I heard last night a couple people talking about this eclectic taste in music. But as her friends will attest, she's one of those rare kids that she hears a song, and by the next time she hears it, she knows every word to it. It's amazing. She's got this gift for it. Well, we listen to a lot of music in the car, as you recall. And I really like the Beatles. I loved the Beatles my whole life. And of course, Courtney, my little shadow and my little clone, she loved the Beatles. And she became obsessed with it. And she remains that way today. I think everybody knows that. And so you heard some of the songs, and of course the beautiful one, Here Comes the Sun. You know, how perfect was that? But you heard some Beatles songs in the ceremony, and the fact our father-daughter dance tonight, the first dance is to a Beatles song. So how appropriate. Another example, now this is going to embarrass you, I think. She's again in this 6 to 7 years of age, something like that. And I had this, I don't know, a picture. It was a business picture of me for something. Anyway, I see her putting it in her backpack. I said, Courtney, what are you doing with the picture? She goes, you know, Dad, I like to have it when I take a test because I get to look at it and I know I'll do better on my test and I feel better. So Julie just shook her head and her sisters rolled their eyes. So anyway. Now this one, I hope I get through this one. When Courtney was probably 6 or 7, we were living here in Maple Grove. And you know those cheesy Hallmark commercials that come out like right before Father's Day or something? And well, there was a woman reminiscing about the time with her father. And
never mind. We're good.
Okay. Just a small fire, no issue. Anyway, so this commercial had this woman reminiscing about her time with her father, growing up and learning how to ride her bike. And she asked me, and I hope I get through this, that, Dad, would you teach me, how to ride my bike on Father's Day? And I did. Sorry about that, guys. I did. We took her up to the flat part on the street and taught her how to ride her bike. Now, I don't know if you remember it, but I've never forgotten it. So anyway, actually, there's a million stories I have for her. And I won't bore you to death because that's what, dads do. Eventually, if they talk too long, my friends tell me they're just talking about themselves. But once Courtney got a little older, smarter, a lot less brainwashed by her father, she came to realize that actually Julie's 93% of this team. So anyway, but one time, I'll just do one last one. One time we're in the car riding to Chicago. We used to do this trip to Chicago back and forth all along. And these guys are teenagers now, the 3 girls. And they're just being a pain in the ass in the back seat, right? So they're these bickering teenagers, and they're making all this noise, and I'm getting mad, and I'm yelling at them, and they're going back and forth, and then all of a sudden we get this, just that awkward quietness because Dad yelled, and I'm beginning to think maybe I overreacted, maybe did this and all this. And out of the blue, Courtney, and I'm quite sure, by the way, in the back seat, she's saying, I got this. So out of the blue, after this awkward silence, she goes, you know, Dad, you're really good at your job. Of course, I cracked up. It broke the ice. All the tension was gone. And, you can't stay mad at Courtney. Whatever it is, you just can't say she won again. So, Courtney, I'm so proud of you. You're a beautiful and compassionate soul who just has a way of making me feel good about myself and all your friends feel good about themselves. And they just kind of want to hang out with you. You're a beautiful person on the inside and out, and despite all the great things you've done, and all the great things you're going to do, I still see that little angel when I look at you. I'm fully certain you and Scott will be great together forever. So now, Julie, would you please come up and join me in the toast? And please bring the wine, will you? So everyone, please raise your glass. I hope you can hear. May the road rise up to meet you, and may the wind always be at your back. We wish you a lifetime of love, all the happiness in the world, and all the success in the world as you define it. We love you both. Good luck. Hear, hear.
Nice job.
Yeah, thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Very nice. For those of you I haven't had a chance to meet, I'm Courtney's younger sister, Caitlin. I've had the great pleasure of growing up with 2 amazing older sisters, Courtney of which is my middle and about 3 years my senior. Courtney has been always one of my greatest protectors, mentors, instigators, and frankly, one of my best friends. Over the last 27 plus years, our relationship has certainly evolved and become one of my greatest friendships. As children, Courtney and I would spend time together, whether it were playing dolls or video games, and this typically turned into some sort of argument, her telling me that I was actually an alien named Barade and dropped off and not a member of the family, which inevitably turned into me sobbing, tattletaling, and then us both being sent to our rooms. The unique thing about being a sister is you always make up and it's almost always instant. And for Courtney and I, that meant writing apology letters to each other, slipping them under the doors, and sneaking into each other's rooms to hang out while we were in timeout. Or even better, when we thought we were so rebellious and we snuck onto the roof between our bedrooms while our parents were in the backyard with Colleen. As we got older, Courtney and I certainly remained close, and we definitely were a little weird together. Some of my favorite memories with Courtney consist of us at home singing on the top of our lungs, "I Will Always Love You" by Whitney Houston from different floors of the house. Or even better, Courtney making up my nickname Choochie, which I'm sure all of you know she calls me, by singing random words to the tune of Frere Jacques. Who knows, a little weird, like I said. But I would say our relationship really blossomed in late high school, early college, and that's when I realized Courtney was really my greatest protector and mentor. I always knew she was there and had my back, whether it was a girl being mean to me in high school and her coming to my defense in the lunchroom, or me making the decision on where to go to college. I knew Courtney had my back. And actually, fun fact, I've essentially copied every major life choice in early adulthood that Courtney made. Courtney went to Miami, I went to Miami. Yeah. Courtney worked at Target, I worked at Target. Courtney got a Cavapoo, I got a Cavapoo. Courtney bought a condo, I lived in her condo. I even took it as far as to date an SAE from the University of Minnesota. Sure, Courtney, you may have instigated me and told me I was an alien, not really a member of the family, but you also instigated me into becoming the person I am today, and I'm truly grateful for that, and I wouldn't change those decisions for the world. Now on to Scooty Duty. We love Scooty Duty, first of all, but I met Scott on his birthday. I don't remember how old you were turning, but it was at Smack Shack, which is apparently a very popular place for him to meet my family. And I walked in, and it was all of the boys there celebrating, and he immediately quieted everyone down and was like, "Hey guys, this is Choochie." And I was like, "Oh, this is the first time we're meeting. I have no idea we were on a nickname basis." But that's the thing about Scott, is he's always had that ability to make you feel instantly welcome and like you've known him forever. And it didn't take long for me to realize that this was something that was going to last. Scott, I've seen your relationship with my sister evolve and grow over the last 6 years, I found out. And I couldn't be happier that you're now my brother. You are passionate, you're outgoing, you're kind, you have swag, contrary to early belief. And most importantly, you love my sister endlessly. I just ask that you protect her and mentor her the way she's always done for me. You love her and guide her the way she's always done for me as well. And most importantly, you make her happy for the rest of her life. If we can all raise our glasses, I'd like to propose a toast to Courtney and Scott. I love you. I can't. My hands are shaking too much.
She has done it.
There she goes. Good evening.
There's Colleen.
We're going to keep it going. Sorry, we've got a lifetime of memories to try to sum up here, but I'm Colleen. I have the privilege of being Courtney's matron of honor this weekend. Courtney and I are 17 months apart, so as far as I've ever known, I've had a built-in best friend as long as I can ever remember. Our relationship had its typical big and little sister up and downs. When it came to things like sharing, sometimes we were amazing at it. Once at Courtney's 6th or 7th birthday party, she was opening up presents and got 2 identical Barbie dolls back to back. The horror. Courtney immediately grabbed the second doll, handed one to me, and said, "Perfect, now we both have one." I couldn't believe it, but that's Courtney. There were also many times where we were not so amazing at sharing. In 5th grade, Courtney had recently gotten a Game Boy that I was obsessed with and caused fights by stealing it from her when she wasn't looking. At some point, Courtney got in trouble for something at school and was being punished by my parents. It must have been something pretty serious because they gave her the option of a punishment to be either no more horseback riding lessons, something Courtney was obsessed with at the time, or she had to just share her Game Boy with me. I assumed this was an absolute victory for me and the Game Boy would soon be mine for the taking, but Courtney looked me square in the eyes without even pausing and said, "I'm keeping the Game Boy." Just imagine the horseback rider that Courtney could have been. And of course, no big and little sister relationship would ever be complete without getting in trouble. Sometimes we were absolutely in the thick of it together, like in high school, when we decided that no one would ever pull over the blue minivan that my mom drove. So it would be totally okay to borrow the car a little bit before becoming licensed drivers. Something that we did get away with a few times. One weekend when Caitlin and I were with my parents at a soccer game, 14-year-old Courtney decided to take the car out and pick up a friend for a little joyride. After just a few miles on the road, Courtney became very concerned that my mom would notice the gas gauge going down and decided to stop at the neighborhood gas station. Obviously, somebody saw her and noticed that she was far too young to be driving and immediately called my parents to tattle on her.
Oh my God.
When we found out that Courtney had been caught, I asked if she was okay and what was she thinking for doing this without me. She said, "It's totally okay. I didn't take any left turns. I don't know how to do those." And don't worry, I won't tell Mom and Dad that you do this too. She's always had my back. But what is not so typical about our big and little sister relationship is that while I'm the older sister, I've always looked up to Courtney in so many ways. Courtney is clearly the dainty and much more put together sister. She has much better taste, so much so that my husband only wants her opinion on what to bring into the apartment. Dainty as she may be, she can keep up with anyone when it comes to number of glasses of wine to be had, and the girl can sing just about any lyric to a rap song. But Courtney has always been an amazing people person and knows how to connect with somebody wherever she is. When I first started at Northwestern and Courtney was a senior in high school, she visited me monthly. I relied on Courtney to help make new friends, and I'm fairly certain that every dollar my parents gave her when coming to visit me went to throwing parties in my dorm so that we could make new friends and meet more people. Courtney's also been known to have a bit of a dramatic flair to her, whether it's something that's literally the most amazing thing ever, or something that she actually cannot right now. She always lets you know how she feels. And this is what I admire most about Courtney. She wears her emotions on her sleeves and let you know exactly where she stands. As a result, Courtney is a friend that never lets you forget how much she cares about you. She's your fiercest protector. Just ask the girl that bullied Caitlin in high school, or my ex-boyfriend. She is your closest ally and biggest cheerleader. She's on the plane the second you go into labor so that she can be there when your baby girl arrives. And it is no surprise that she has 14 best friends standing by her side at this wedding tonight. I'm constantly learning how to be a better friend and person from following in your footsteps. When Courtney's love for one Mr. Scooty Doodles appeared a handful of years ago, we knew it was getting serious when she started asking, "How cute does my Scooty look right now?" Or, "How good is my doody-doo at this or that?" Scott, it is not hard for me to see how you can fall in love with Courtney, but I am so glad that you've been able to do so in spite of her nicknaming you Scooty Doody, Doodles, and eventually just Doo-Doo. I was lucky enough to be born into having Courtney as my best friend, but you were smart enough to choose her. Your life will never be short of fun and excitement, and you'll never have to face anything in this life alone. You're the brother that this quilty family has been waiting 30 years for, and I cannot tell you... He's not my brother, sorry, he's my husband. I've been waiting for a brother. And I can't tell you how happy I am that this is finally official. I wish you two only the slothiest of Sundays, a wine glass that's always full, and a lifetime of endless fun and happiness. Courtney, life is so much better because of you. I love you. Cheers.
Am I on? Okay. We'll do one more. Awesome speeches. Amazing job. So for those who don't know me, I'm Matt. I'm the best man, also known as Bombo. So I have actually been dreading this day for 4.5 years. And the reason for that is 4.5 years ago, Scott gave the best man speech at my wedding. And at the age of 31, I have a pretty good idea of what I'm capable of in life. And I know that even on my best day, the speech I give here tonight will not hold a candle to the speech God gave at my wedding. With Scott's natural wit, charisma, confidence, him holding a microphone in his hands is probably the equivalent of Babe Ruth with a baseball bat. So, at my wedding, Scott, as he normally does when giving speeches, just completely owned the room. And his speech was actually so good, and this sounds made up, but it is 100% true. His speech was so good that when he finished, I'm about to tell you. You hold on. His speech was so good that he had 3 different job offers when he was done. And when I say job offers, I don't mean that he was talking to someone later on in the night and they dropped in conversation something like, "Hey, I'd love to have you working for my company." When I say he had 3 job offers, I mean the second he was done talking, 3 people got up out of their chair, raced over to him and said, "Where do you work? How much do you make? And what would it take for you to work for my company?" So yeah, it was a great speech. But what I actually think sums up Scott's natural wit and charisma the best is one of the people there that night was Scott and I's youth hockey coach. And he coached Scott for 3 years while Scott was growing up. But for the 15 years before my wedding, he literally had not seen Scott once. Had not seen Scott since he was a kid. But despite that gap in exposure to Scott, especially during his adult years, he was still able to react appropriately when Scott got up to give the speech at my wedding. The reports are that when Scott grabbed the microphone at our wedding, our youth hockey coach saw this, smiled, sat back in his chair, kicked one foot on the other knee, looked at everyone at his table and said, "Well, this will be worth the price of admission." So why do I tell that story? I tell that story for 2 reasons. The first reason is I tell that story, I really want to set expectations with everyone here tonight. You should be expecting to hear a pretty mediocre speech. The second reason I tell that story is pretty much if you are anybody other than Courtney, after spending 5 minutes with Scott, you're going to realize that he is a funny, charismatic, and confident guy. And usually that's a great thing for Scott. Occasionally it's a bad thing. More on that later. But again, I just wanted to tell one story. That highlighted all of Scott's obvious traits, and I want to spend the rest of the time talking through some of Scott's still great but less obvious qualities. So with that, the next attribute of Scott's that I want to highlight is that Scott is a super athletic guy. And Scott was a great baseball player, great hockey player growing up, but that's not what I want to talk about tonight when I say Scott's athletic. When I say Scott's athletic, what I want to do is I want to share the story that highlights how deadly accurate Scott is with his left arm. Because it was actually this left arm that produced one of the most impressive athletic accomplishments I have ever seen in my life. So this story begins the summer before Scott and I were going to our senior year of high school. And I still remember this. We were sitting at the Chipotle in Eden Prairie, trying to figure out what we were going to do that night. And Scott proposed to the group that we should all get in a car, start driving around, and actually hurl water balloons out the back window into oncoming traffic. And as a bunch of 17-year-olds, we thought that was an excellent idea. So that's exactly what we did. So I was the driver, and if you know me, that is absolutely the wrong spot for me for many different reasons, but different story for a different day. Scott was sitting in the back seat of the vehicle, though, on the left side of the car, and absolutely the right spot for him. So we start driving around. We make it maybe a mile. We pass like 15 to 20 different cars. And for every single car that we pass, Scott is leaning out the left window with his left arm lobbing a water balloon at each car. And I'm not kidding you, he didn't miss a car. Literally 20 for 20. Like I said, one of the most impressive athletic accomplishments. But just to finish this story out, one of the cars Scott had hit, he actually broke their windshield. Another car got our license plate, and we were actually arrested at my parents' house an hour later. Really shocking ending to that one. But it's actually at the end of this story. It's the end of this story that I think is just such a perfect example of some time where Scott's wit, charisma, and confidence get him into a little bit of trouble. Because as the police were questioning us that night, and again, trying to determine if they should arrest us, one of the officers asked Scott where he was sitting in the vehicle. When Scott got that question, he just stared directly at the officer and even kind of head nodded at him like, "What's up?" So the officer asked Scott where he's sitting in the vehicle, and Scott goes, "I was sitting left nut." So the officer pauses, and understandably so, does not know where left nut is located in the vehicle. And this time, he clearly was not happy with the answer, and this time very sternly asked Scott, "Excuse me, where were you sitting in the vehicle?" And this time, Scott, very sheepishly responds, "Officer, I was sitting in the back seat on the left side of the vehicle." So, needless to say, I can definitely thank Scott's athleticism, but probably more so his overconfidence for why both him and I have criminal records at this point in our lives. So, the next attribute of Scott's that I want to highlight is that Scott has an unmatched ability to be a party starter. Perfect example of this. This actually occurred the Sunday morning of my bachelor party, which was in New Orleans. And my bachelor party had been in New Orleans since Thursday. And as they say in sports, we had left it all out on the field. We were dead. Our priority on Sunday morning was to wake up, go to breakfast, go to the airport so we could get home and prepare for work the next day. And when we left the hotel that day, our hotel right on Bourbon Street, I just looked around. It was as dead as you'll find Bourbon Street. A lot of people seemed to be feeling very tired. But it's when we left the hotel that day that our group very, very quickly realized that Scott did not share our vision of having a quiet little Sunday. Because when we left the hotel that day, Scott actually grabbed one of the luggage carts. So the luggage carts that the bellhops use to bring people's luggage up to the room. He grabs one of these luggage carts and rolls it all the way out into the middle of Bourbon Street. And then starts, we'll say, provocatively dancing on it. Scott then ratchets it up, though, when he starts singing and he starts chanting words. And because of the sanctity of this event, I will not repeat what Scott was saying, but I can assure you of two things. One, what Scott was singing really didn't make a whole lot of sense. But then secondly, what Scott was singing was definitely drawing a lot of attention to himself. So he literally has a crowd forming around him in the middle of Bourbon Street. And for the rest of my life, I will always remember what the bellhop at our hotel said as he was watching all this happen. We later learned this bellhop had lived in New Orleans his whole life, had worked at this hotel on Bourbon Street for the last 10 years. And as he was watching all this happen, he turned to our group and said, "Man, I have seen a lot of crazy shit over the years on this street. But whatever it is that man is doing right there is the craziest thing I have ever seen in my entire life." So that definitely energized our group. Scott further energized our group at 9 a.m. by ordering 3 rounds of Fireball shots at breakfast. And our quiet little Sunday turned into a Sunday fun day within a matter of minutes. She truly is a distinguished party starter. So now we'll get a little more serious, because the next attribute of Scott's that I want to highlight, because I think it's super important when describing Scott, is that Scott is a relentlessly hard worker. And I think that word relentlessly is super important when describing Scott's work ethic. So I think there's a lot of people in this world that work really, really hard when things are going well. But for everyone in life, things don't always go the way you want or the way you plan at all times. As everyone knows, it's just a fact of life. But I actually think that's what separates Scott, is that when the chips are down, Scott is actually able to work harder. And I think it's a big reason why he is at where he is in his career and his relationship and now marriage to Courtney and his relationship with his family and friends. Scott just has the ability to go further and put in more effort than pretty much anyone I've met in my life, and has definitely inspired me at different points in my life, and I'm sure has inspired other people in this room. So the last attribute of Scott's that I want to highlight, and again, I think this one is again, really important when describing Scott, because again, I think it gets said about a lot of people, but it could not be more true than it is about Scott. And this attribute is that Scott is the type of person that will literally do anything for his friends. What actually really nailed this point home for me was actually at Scott's bachelor party, with all the guys sitting up here. We did a thing on Saturday night where we all got into a room and everyone got to go around and tell a story about Scott. And I've done these type of things before in bachelor parties, and they usually very quickly devolve into a roast of the bachelor. And for a guy like Scott, who let's just say has a lot of material on him, especially in the context of a bachelor party, I was fully expecting a roast of Scott. But what amazed me is that it didn't. When we went around the room, the majority of the guys basically told a story that in one way or another highlighted what a great friend Scott was. It really was a cool moment. And again, I think it's because of this trait, because Scott is the type of person that will literally do anything for his friends. That's the reason why he has so many close friends in his life. I mean, it's been highlighted here tonight many times. We had 18 groomsmen and ushers. We had 23 people at the bachelor party, and there are other people invited that couldn't come. I mean, those are made-up numbers. I've never heard of those type of numbers for number of people to come to a bachelor party or number of groomsmen. Again, I really think this is due to the fact that Scott is such a good friend and the type of person that will do anything for his friends. So at this point, I wish I had more time to highlight all of Scott's great traits. I mean, two of them I just want to name. Scott's a super humble guy, despite all of his accomplishments and despite all of the pizzazz. He is a super humble guy. And the other one is that Scott's just the type of person that does make the people in his life better people. But I know that people want to start eating, so Courtney, I'm going to wrap up by saying this. And I know I don't need to tell you this, but Scott's gonna keep life very, very interesting for you. He is a special personality, but what I also know is that Scott's gonna care for you and your family just as he has cared for his family and his friends throughout his whole life. And he's gonna make your life so much better in so many different ways. I'm just really excited to watch you two go through life together. So for one last time before everyone eats, I'd like to just raise a toast to a new name everyone has learned tonight, Scooty Doodles. Scooty Doodles and Babe, here we go. Cheers. Thank you.
All right. Thank you guys for coming. Wow. What an incredible evening.
Yeah, I like that ring.
I like the ring too, babe. It looks good, and you look even better. Can we give it up for Courtney right now in this planning? I mean, this is absolutely incredible. I want to thank my parents for just a phenomenal rehearsal dinner last night, and of course the Quilties for just a terrific evening tonight. Thank you so much. It feels good to finally be a part of this family. 6 years. And, you know, Mr. Quilty, he's an intimidating guy. And as evidenced tonight by how few people are here, he's not really that welcoming either. So being on the outside, trying to break into this family was a little bit difficult. So I knew early on I needed to find some commonalities with Mr. Quilty. So things like golf and bourbon, cigars. Yeah, it was none of these things. Some 2x4s and nails, a little bit of elbow grease, and a do-it-yourself project. Fixing things up and working in the tool shed, that's where we thrive. Just some handy guys working around the house. For those of you that didn't catch the sarcasm, I couldn't be kidding more. It was said last night by one of my best friends, Chris Miller. I literally just learned the difference between a Phillips and a flathead screwdriver. So we're not exactly knowing how to navigate a toolbox, you could say.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah. No, but in all seriousness, I'm so excited, Mr. Quilty, to be a part of this family. And honestly, one of the things I really appreciate about you so much is you're just extremely generous. You are a tremendous father to 3 gorgeous young women, and you put on an absolutely terrific evening. So thank you again for Mr. Quilty and the Quilties tonight. The other thing that you should probably know about Mr. Quilty is he has a lot of friends, and he has a lot of good friends, and he likes to have fun. And so this story, I think it was the first Sunday maybe I ever went over to the Quilties. And I had heard from Courtney that Mr. Quilty was looking for, a guy to come around and maybe have a glass of bourbon and a cigar. So I'm pretty excited too. Well, as the meat was marinating, we had some margaritas and we had some wine at dinner, and the day kind of got away from us just a little bit. And when we decided to have our final nightcap of bourbon, we went up into the kitchen. And as we were getting that final ice cube out of the freezer, the handy guys put the ice tray maker back in the freezer and broke it. We were up there for a half hour and the freezer is broken. We can't figure it out. So Mrs. Quilty has to come up and do what we couldn't. She fixes the freezer. Yep. Mrs. Quilty fixes the freezer and she saves the day. But, honestly, I was thinking that wasn't the first time you saved the day at all. It dates way back to our very first date with Courtney. And Mrs. Quilty, you have always been in my corner. And quite frankly, dead serious, without Mrs. Quilty, I don't know if there would have been a first date with Courtney, or a second, or a third, or a fourth. She was highly complimentary of you trying to get into the dating scene. And fortunately for me, that guy was me. So thank you very much. No, but in all seriousness, Mrs. Quilty, so excited to be a part of your family. One of the things that I most respect with you is you are incredibly selfless. You're so caring, and I'm admired at the way when you guys were moving around so frequently to different countries, the way that you just kept this family together. I think Mr. Quilty said you were 97% or 93%, and it couldn't be. I'm not going to say it couldn't be further from the truth, but you have raised just incredibly phenomenal, outgoing, driven, beautiful young women, and that's a testament to you and to Mr. Quilty. And really quick, Mom and Dad, thank you again for a great evening. Ellie and I, we couldn't be more blessed. I'm going through puberty, I guess. We honestly couldn't be more blessed to have been raised in a household. Mom, you filled our house just with joy and love and laughter. You truly taught us how to be so caring, how to treat everyone with respect and dignity, and we really appreciate that. And Dad, you instilled in us at a really young age just values that never go out of style, just hard work, integrity, and you always taught us that character is king, and we really appreciate that. And then there's Courtney. It was said earlier, Courtney has an attribute I don't have a whole lot of, and it's been said multiple times, but one of the things I want to thank you for is your patience. Courtney told me after Colleen got engaged, she said, I'm going to get married in 2019, hope to see you at the altar. So again, I feel pretty fortunate that guy was me. He has done it. This process of going through the wedding planning, babe, is you absolutely nailed this thing, and it's been one of the most impressive things I think I've ever seen you do. From the standpoint of, seriously, she did everything. You guys, everything. It's busy season at work. She's excelling there. She put on this whole thing. We bought a house. She's furnishing that. I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen when life slows down. Like, we might need to get some hobbies or something because okay. Colleen said have a baby. Well, okay. I mean, Banks Schofield. Just kind of an inside joke. But seriously, Court, I love you so much. There's so many things I can say right now. I'm the luckiest man on the face of the earth right now. You're my absolute best friend. You make me so happy, and you truly make not only the friends and the people around you better, but you've made me better in every single way, every single day. And I'll love you forever. I love you, babe. As I wrap up, really quick, I was living with Chris Miller at the time, and we were like, should we start like going out on dates and like dating girls? We're like 25. We're like, yeah, this seems like a good idea. Should probably start going on some dates. So we had one prerequisite of any girl. We're like, whoever we go on a date with has to fit in with the boys. They have to get along with our friend group because, as you can see, there's a lot of them and we're a lot to deal with. And it was so funny early on when I met Courtney, it was like a role reversal. She has more friends than I do, and it was like I was on the interview. It was just funny how things came together, and it's been just unbelievable how she's fit in with our friends, who, quite frankly, want to hang out with her more frequently than me at this point. But she's just been a perfect addition. And in speaking of friends, I know I speak for both of us when I say we couldn't be more fortunate to just have tremendous people in our lives. We're very social. We love all of you guys here in this room, those at the head table. And so for us, if you wouldn't mind indulging me just a minute and grabbing a glass, it doesn't matter. There's people here from Orono. I'll throw it up to the Pi Beta Phi's that went to Miami of Ohio. There's a lot of SAEs from the U of M and some Bloomington Jefferson guys. But I'm gonna wing this one and we'll see how it goes. But there are red ships and blue ships that sail the ocean sea. But the best ships are friendships. So cheers to you and me. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers, yes, Cootie.
And at this time, we'd like to invite Courtney up to the front. Courtney, Father's Hour Dance. Courtney and her father up to the front, please. Let's give it up.